Hello, I'm Holokid, coach of the LA Lucarios, and we're on our newest season of our seventh season of our Socal Pokemon Draft League. I'm joined here today with Joken, a good friend of mine, who's our coach of the San Francisco Swamperts.
Hello, good to be here.
I also like to call him my professional friend because he usually knows everything about Draft League. But we're on to judge our friends' teams today. We're gonna rank them from worst to first, and starting it off with is Huntsville Hunters.
Again, real quick, this is just our initial reactions after the draft is just finished. If we have your team low, it's not an insult to you as a coach of your team. It's just a ranking that we came up with.
My DMs are open, and I will fight anyone down there. It doesn't matter. Y'all trash, and I will beat you. But this is all just for fun. We just wanted to judge people's teams and all that, and hopefully, like, maybe help in the outcome of like switches and all that, like what we could just naturally just see, because draft can be very stressful. But our first team that we're going to be looking at today is the Huntsville Hunters, which is a very odd Sun team without Torkoal.
I'm not sure on this. You can tell he was definitely going for Sun, but Torkoal got picked up by one of our other teams, and he's kind of cobbled together a team. I'll be interested to see how it works. He has a lot of good individual pieces, but I don't know how they'll work together very well.
Yeah, when I was looking at this team like a couple minutes ago, like the first thing that stood out to me of it missing was like you didn't have a fairy type, which makes sense now to make the fairy captain or a Terra captain fairy. So that makes a little bit more sense now, but I think still not having a good switch in for that. Like, there's no reason to bring a steel type to this team, like, whatsoever. Which means, like, Skullvillain won't do as much.
I think the Copperajah does bring something to the team, though, because if he ends up running a Trick Room week, it can be very threatening.
Yeah, this is a very Trick Room heavy team, which is kind of exciting. I think this team could have been actually kind of beneficial with like Slowking Galar. A good slow pivot into safely bringing Lilligant or Samurott out and all that.
That would have been a good option, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm interested to see what they could do, because Spiritomb is going to be like, with no really good heavy hitting fairy types other than like 3. Spiritomb can stall out most of the teams, and setting up for Will-O-Wisp and just kind of being a nuisance. It's one of the few mons that still has pain split.
Yeah, definitely. It can still help spin block for the Samurott, getting those spikes up, or even Sandy Shocks. That'll be a nice feature of it too.
One of the major things about this team that I also noticed, there is no defog, there's no spin, there's no way to getting rid of hazards here.
It's not listed here. Lilligant does get defog.
I keep forgetting about that, but you know what? What you don't know won't hurt you, you know? But yeah, anything else you want to say about that? I think Cresselia is going to cover this team pretty well. I just don't think Toxic.
It's a very good piece.
Yeah, not having Toxic is going to be kind of weird. But there's no way to stop it.
Dragougie gets Toxic, but yeah, Cresselia not having it does hurt it. I think on this team, though, it's mainly going to be used, if I had to guess, weather and support is more it's going to be role. Maybe you can see the odd Calm Mind, Stored Power kind of weak in there.
I just want to see Healing Wish at least once. Okay, give it to me. Just give it to me.
You gotta do. Have you seen its new move, Lunar Blessing?
Oh yes, I have. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it restores HP, PP, and Cure status. That's the way to go if you're gonna run that kind of week.
Yes, we need something like that. All right, on to our next team, which is quite funny because it's actually the Sun team. So we have
our team that took the Torkoal.
Yes, this is our Walking Wake, of course, with Torkoal and Arcanine Hisuian. Okay, so the first 3 picks are always kind of confusing because I feel like Arcanine Hisuian is really good, but I don't think it was necessary to pick up.
I think on this team, the idea was it already hits incredibly hard with Flare Blitz and Rockhead, and Sun is only going to augment that even further into making it a very fearsome wall breaker.
Yeah. Oh my god, it still gets extreme speed. Sorry, I had to look that up. Oh,
speed, yes.
The one thing I would have done with this team though is I would have made Brute Bonnet the Terra Captain. 'Cause I think setting up the sun and being like super weak to it, like I think I could have made it into a fire type or even a water type to kind of just resist any kind of like coverage on that.
I think it'll be week to week on what he's doing with the matchup, but from talking to him, it's kind of the same thing I mentioned with Arcanine. He feels that a Terra Fire Iron Hands with a Fire Punch can be a very threatening wall breaker, or even just Terra Electric with a Wild Charge. That would let it break through a lot of things just because of that 140 attack.
Yeah. Now, if you look on the stat sheet here, this team is gross of like all its weaknesses. So it's gonna be quite interesting to see how it can be played out.
Yeah, I might say down the line, I think he leaned a little too hard into Sun for my preference on a draft league. He might want to go and grab, I don't know, a bulky water type. I think Gastrodon's still available. I think you mentioned that earlier. The Gastrodon looks pretty good on this team. I would agree with that. That something that can take those water hits, something that can take those ice hits looks very good on this team.
Why am I just now noticing this? This man picked up two fire types, made his Terra Captain one of the fire types, and then he has three grass
Three grass types.
types,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Something
two
to take those
dark
water ice hits
types.
would be appreciated.
Oh,
The
ugh.
Toxicroak's not a bad stopgap with dry skin, but it's also going to hurt itself in the sun. So I think
Yeah,
another
yeah,
water type with Walking Wake, as much as it sucks on a sun team, helps defensively.
yeah. I can see that going. I do like the Grim Snarl pick because it does kind of
Backup Sunsetter and screens. I like that.
yeah, lowers attacks on things that could just freely hit things or pivot around. Uh, and yeah, overall, like Torkoal is really good on this. Unfortunately, it's his only rocks and his only way of getting rid of it, really, because I don't think you want to click defog on Lilligant or Trepus.
Yeah. I think he's got a solid core. I might like to see him switch some stuff up in the free agency down the line, though.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in what it could possibly do. It definitely will do decent in some games, not every game, unfortunately. But yeah. So moving on to our next one, which is a returning person who started out last season. He was new and he's back, and he picked up his Volcarona again. So this is a
Yeah,
huge threat.
he had great success with Volcarona last season. If I remember correctly, it was in our top 5. It might have even been first place in our kill leaders. So
And
he
he
did very
said,
well with the
"Bet."
Volcarona. Yeah. So
uh,
that said, I like the top 3. Volcarona, Great Tusken Gambit, extremely threatening core. Great attack on the 2 physical mons. Volcarona is really threatening with the Quiver Dance. My issues with this team come from what's otherwise on the team, the bottom 6. They aren't bad on their own, but it feels like such a big gap in what the top 3 can do compared to the rest of the team.
Toad Scroll, like I'm very interested that you picked it up because I was actually gonna use it, but like it has really good stats and the ability is just trash. I don't really like that. But what it could possibly do and how hard it hits, that's actually really good. So I'm interested in seeing that to do it. Flapple was obviously like a last choice pick because he really didn't have a dragon and there was nothing else available. Like he it's still a coverage that he should have got. And
Yeah.
SQ, I'm actually really excited for this because this mon sleeps. Like,
I think it is underrated. The fact that it's a free hit that it can tank with that
yeah,
ability should be good for this team because I would say outside of Great Tusk and King Gambit, he doesn't have a lot on the team that wants to be taking hits.
he has 3 gimmick mons, which I'm very excited if he can pull off well. Volcarona, obviously Quiver Dance, but he has the Mimikyu, Sword Dance, Shadow Snake, take a hit, set up, and then blast off. Same thing with SQ. He could go take a physical hit, have the berry that boosts up your speed, and then just ice spinner your way to success. Because
I
ice
wanna
spinner is guaranteed hit.
I wanna mention the Terra Captain here. I
Yeah.
like the Electros typings that you chose, but I don't know if I agree with that being the Terra Captain that you should have gone with on this team. I think something like Inteleon or Mimikyu would really appreciate the power boost on one of its stabs to help with some wall breaking. And granted, you can change it up most weeks, but I personally would have gone with Inteleon or Mimikyu. I think uh, I'm weird. I like it on my offensive threats when most people like it defensively, like you did here. So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, but Yeah, I mean, it being electric type with levitate, it's gonna be hard hitting. And you have
I
its greatest like counter with Great Tusk because you won't be able to do shit to it.
I was very happy with Electros last season. It did great for me, so I like
Yeah.
it on the team. I just don't know about it being Terra Captain.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because I think with a lot of people having a lot of water, like Scald out of the game, right? Water is
Right.
kind of dropped down out of sight. And Talion still has Snipe Shot, which is really good. It lost focus energy, sure, but making it a Terra Captain
Would get
would
some
be
of that power back, yeah.
yeah. And then since everyone does have a lot of ice weakness in our draft, Ice Beam will go burr.
Yeah, Terra Ice could be a good option too.
But we do have free Terra trades that's not part of like your normal trade, so please play around. Well, like fuck around and find out, you know? I'm interested to see, especially if you go Ice Cube with like ghost typing. I think that would be really funny. Come in on a close combat and go, no, no, no. But yeah, on to our next one, which is our good friend McWise, Maddie Psyducks. Maddie Psyduck? Oh my god.
The mighty Psyducks.
Can I just say fuck this dude real quick because I waited like I think I was before him. I picked up my safety pick first and then he picked my Urshifu after waiting like 5 hours.
Well, it's your fault then. You should have taken this first.
I wanted
Keeping
Heat
that
Train,
going.
man.
Don't
But
get any food then.
this is actually the order he drafted in. Too. He's second pick Charizard. I don't know what plays or what plans this man has, but I'm very curious. Very curious.
As for the team, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I like the Urshifu. I like the Iron Jugulis being Terra Captain. I like the Sylveon. There's some other question marks for me here, though. I'll need to see how he uses the Cleavor and the Tyranitar and the Dugtrio together, because that could be an interesting Sand core. With Cleaver getting some of the Spadef bonus from Sand being up would be nice. But there's some other things that I just feel are questionable. The Tatsugiri being his main water resist is something that's going to be painful because Tatsugiri doesn't want to be taking the hits despite being the water resist.
Yeah, and also they don't want to take any ice coverage at all. So that's kind of like the
electric on this team too. Despite having Dugtrio, electric hits a lot of stuff on this team.
I am using Dugtrio on another draft as well as fast as it is, and it hits like a truck. It is 35 base HP. It is a paper. Yeah. So you gotta just go fast and try to get out as fast as possible. So it's gonna be interesting to see. But this team, like, that was my biggest complaint was like the water weakness, and you have to keep Tatsugiri alive. I get it that like they got rid of Scald, but man,
Storm Drain is going to be big, and he's going to have to play around it very well if he doesn't want to get run over by teams with some of the big water type threats.
I am curious of what kind of sets he will bring with Urshifu Rapid Strike, because a lot of people are just bringing Punching Glove, but there's still so many other sets that you could possibly do with it, which I'm very curious with. I think that's a really good mon, and especially now that it got Swords Dance, it's just a free setup.
I was going to say, I would be hoping to see some Swords Dance, probably with Close Combat Aqua Jet, was what I think would be exciting to see a couple weeks.
Yeah, the base sets and all that, I love it. All right, so on to our next one is actually a new member to our draft league, Long Beach Dragonites. He's a good friend of Makeda and me, and he first picked Sneasler, which is one of the most disgusting mons that to come into any Pokemon game out there. Of Dire Claw being able to 30% status,
50%.
50%. It's disgusting, and it goes a little bit higher when you have Poison Touch on it. Most of the time you're gonna run out of Burden, but like there's so many options you have with this team.
Yeah, this team looked initially solid. I like that you have the Corviknight Quagsire core. That feels like a very good defensive core. Screamtail also feels like it fits very well on this team. That said, the question marks for me are kind of the low kicks and the Ampharos and even the Typhlosion. I am usually a fan of the offensive sort of Terras, but Typhlosion, I don't know, man. It doesn't feel like it ever has the oomph behind it. Its move pool is so limited, and the special attack isn't quite as high as you'd like it to be. So maybe the Terra helps with that, but I don't know.
The Terra is questionable. I think even just go. Well, you can't do Corviknight. You can't do any of the ones that you want to do. So Typhlosion is your best option out of all this, but I think even maybe a defensive Screamtail probably would have been a little bit better. Screamtail. Okay, so I can see what they were trying to do with this with the Corviknight, Quagsire, Screamtail. I would probably want to switch out Screamtail for like Slowbro or Slowking because it's too fast. You want to be able to slow pivot into Sneasler. You want to be able to take the hit first and then bring in Sneasler safely. But the Baton Pass at base 111 speed, like it's just too fast for what you're trying to do. Like I can see the imagery that you're trying to do here. I think it's just going to be very hard to pull off. Because you got Corviknight with U-turn and Quagsire just sitting in and recovering. But you have a very limited amount of time, and if someone predicts it just right, like you lose something.
I will also say this about the team. I usually like to see in Draft League people going for one of two cores, that being Fairy Dragon Steel or Firewater Grass. You missed on both of them here. The team has neither completely. I think I would have liked to see a Dragon Fairy Steel core, but the issue at this point, there's not many dragons left.
No.
So I would say look for a grass type, maybe I don't know, a chestnut or something like that on the bulky side. That also could maybe be your slow pivot. I think that would really help this team.
But Mr. Jokin, I think you're forgetting. Why would you need to draft something when you could just become what the person has with Ditto?
Very true. I saw his last pick was Ditto. I went, ooh, that's a good last pick.
Yeah, especially with things like Volcarona and Great Tusk and like
There's
just
a lot of things that can take advantage of this season. Yeah.
Yeah, you're automatically going to be faster than all those mons. It's going to be very interesting. Yeah, I personally don't really like this team, but I'm interested to see how it does. I know Makeda helped a lot on making this team, and I feel like it's going to be like a Makeda Part 2 team. So it could possibly do a lot.
I think its top core is solid, but it'll be tricky to pull off, is my feeling on it.
I think with I think you should have picked up another fighting weakness, so then Zoroark could come in easily, thinking that like, haha, I'm going to close combat this for free, and you're like, all right, I'm Zoroark.
Well, if you're
Shut
saying
up, I'll go burr.
weakness, and I'm saying grass type, he could pick up Wo-Chien, and that would fit very nicely as a bulky grass.
Oh my god, that would actually. Ugh. All right, let's stop giving them ideas that could hurt me. All right, on to our next one, which is hey, look, it's Jokin. It's our Swampert team, our disgusting little heavy hitting fairies, all the spin takers you could think of.
I'm collecting them.
Yeah. Jokin here didn't want anyone to have fun and get rid of rocks, so he said, all right, let me take all the spins. Also, he took my Quavalval. I really wanted to use it, and he took it away from me. So I yelled at him for like 2 days. But how do you feel about your team?
I feel like I was very happy with my first 3 picks. I was worried I wasn't get a steel type I would like, but Iron Treads I'm happy with. That's a quick Volt Switch user. He can act as my spin and my rocks. And then the big 2 I was interested in were Quavalvax Caliber for their priority. Those 2 having Ice Shard and Aqua Jet, I feel can be very threatening physical sweepers. The rest of it was kind of cobbled together last minute. I wanted a defensive core, so I ended up going Fortress Umbreon. I'm not as crazy about that, but I'm pretty happy with my top 5.
Yeah, I think Umbreon still has a lot of good potential of being like a physical bulky and special bulky mon, but losing Toxic kind of sucks, and Foul Play is kind of its only really good coverage right now. Like that was its only attack move to begin with, but it's gotten a little bit worse losing a lot. But it still has Wish. Still could be pretty good. My first thought on this team was I didn't quite understand why you kept taking all the hazard spinners, and it's a very physically offensive team.
It is, yeah.
Like you do have your mixed coverages, but like I feel like you're not gonna want to use them as much. But Iron Treads is gonna be good. I think you're gonna really appreciate that mon a lot because, ooh, it's a
I'm
sleeper.
excited to use it.
I really do wish it got a specialty move like Great Tusk did, though.
I think
The
even without it, I'm pretty happy. It's just got so much utility. It's gonna
Yeah.
knock, like you could run like a set like knock off Volt Switch, Rapid Spin, Rocks, and feel pretty happy. You even need to run Stab on it, and I think
will-
that alone makes it very valuable.
I will say you're going to have the major problem of 4 move syndrome with that mon.
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah,
I'm
'cause-
well aware.
It's gonna want to run everything.
Yes.
You've used Quavalvel for before, and obviously making it a Terra Captain and putting it into a fairy type to get rid of, the fairy weakness itself, is a good idea. But I'm interested because that means you'll have 2 fairy types, and you have what, three different weaknesses to steal at that point.
Yes. Yes. Steel can be a big issue for this team. The only stuff I have that resisted is a lot of my lower tier mons that aren't going to come every week. So
Yeah.
I've got to play around that pretty carefully.
But other than that, I think this team looks good. I didn't put it too high on myself because there's something wrong with this team that I haven't noticed just yet. Like, you have a huge fire weakness, no fire resist, like, other than Quavalvel, but even then, it's still pretty weak. Huge fairy weakness, but that's known for. And just the fighting. You huge fighting weakness, but I think you have one of the best fighting mons. I think a ghost would go really well on this team. And I couldn't tell you what's available, but I think a ghost would go really well, and I think a better grass type. I don't think fortress is needed though, in my opinion. I think that's a bit overkill. But unless you have anything more to say about your team.
No, I think you covered most of it.
Yeah. Okay. So on to our next one, which is our good friend Makeda, the Boston Badoots. We don't stream any of these matches. He's our champion of our last season. So
Season, yes.
he ended up winning with his Shen Pao. And then somehow, I think 7th pick, he picked up Dragapult.
7th pick, yeah, 7th pick.
Like, he picked up the draft threat, the #1 pick in draft season, or in draft altogether.
Draft
Usually,
leagues, yeah.
just he picked it at number 7. How disrespectful! So he's gonna show it to them. He's gonna show everyone why you picked this thing up first.
Yeah,
So
that said, despite him being champion and getting Dragapult, we kind of placed this team where it is because we're both a little confused on how it's going to work. We don't have a great feel for how the team's going to perform.
yeah. Dragapult, Scizor, and Toxapex really good. Tinglu is awkward. Fits well on his team, but it's very awkward. I didn't enjoy using it as much as as much as I could have. Granted, I missed a lot of runations than I should have.
You got unlucky on those last season, so I think that does play into your perception. But I would agree, it kind of feels like the question mark for me on the team of like, how does it fit in? And I realize it's meant as a Toxapex partner, but it still feels, I don't know, something about it's odd. On the team though, I really liked Azelf Terra Captain.
Yeah, Azelf into the steel with levitate, always a good feeling because then it's just
Weaknesses. You could even do electric. It doesn't have as many resistances, but you have to know weaknesses like Electros. The part I'm more excited about those as the season goes on, seeing what type Makeda goes with, because it has so much special coverage. It gets Thunderbolt, it gets Ice Beam, you've got Psychic and Shadow Ball, and I believe Energy Ball. It gets so much that it can play around with that I hope he takes advantage of some unique Terra choices in order to help the matchups week to week.
Yeah, I'm. As much as on paper this team is gonna go, like, it doesn't look like it's gonna do as much. The player will make it run for its money. Like that's the the great thing about Draft League is like on paper this doesn't look like it's going to be able to do much. He has one spinner, he has one defogger, and he's going to be able to use that to his advantage. I think Scissor being its only defogger though is questionable, but at the same time, you're only going to click 2 moves on Scissor. It's either U-turn or Bullet Punch.
It does make things a little awkward though, because if you want hazards, you're either giving up, or hazard removal, you're giving up a move on Scissor, or you have to bring Colossal. And I don't feel like there's a lot of weeks you're gonna want to bring Colossal.
Let's be honest, you don't want to bring Colossal at all. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this works out.
Yeah, it's a high potential team. We just don't see the same vision I think he does.
And Flamingo kinda, I had high hopes for it. I tried it, and it doesn't work out. It's only really good against Hisui and Zork, and so, just close combating at Ghost.
What are you gonna say if he takes the 2 things you had but didn't use last season and uses them to great success this season?
Skill issue.
Skill issue?
Skill issue.
Good to know. All right.
It's yeah. Last season didn't count for me.
We don't talk about season 6.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. It doesn't exist. But yeah, Azolf, I was very curious. I thought about stealing it from him just to piss him off, but I really curious to see how he's gonna do it, because he's been scheming with it, and I'm excited to see that. But yeah, on to also a new friend of ours has joined our draft, which this person has drafted a team that is just to my liking. You can
tell they might be new to draft, but they are definitely not new to competitive Pokemon.
Yeah, and they drafted something that I love to do the most, which is a regenerator team into a slow pivot into hard hitting Mons. They have like 4 of my favorite Mons in here.
Yeah, I was very excited to see him pick up the Ceruledge. That was something I had been trying to work into my teams. I've been wanting to use for a while and haven't found a good way to. So I got my fingers crossed he's able to pull off some good Ceruledge sweeps. But the team overall does look very solid.
Yeah, you have a Moongus. Well, Moongus doesn't have any pivot, but like again, it just goes in and takes hits. And what is it not to love about a Moongus? You have Slowbro.
You get Spore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great as a support mod.
We do have a Sleep Claw, so he has to be very careful with that. But Slowbro, Lost Teleport, has Chilly Reception. So it's not a negative priority, but it's still one of the slowest mons out there. So it'd be just fine into pivoting around. Greninja has Battle Bond now. Even though it's nerfed, it still should be very good.
Yes.
Iron Valiant and Ceruledge both has and Greninja both, and Donphan and Bisharp. Oh my god, this team has a lot of priority that I did not realize.
Yes, this team, it doesn't look that quick on paper outside the top 2, but he has a lot of ways to make up for that. Murkrow with Prankster even. Yeah.
And then he made his team even more scarier by drafting his Terra Captain Altaria and making it Mega Altaria.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he's got in the works for this, because I will be honest, I was a little confused on why he made that the Terra Captain at the start, but I'm sure he's got a good plan. I would say the majority of weeks, I think I would be happiest seeing Ceruledge or Bisharp be a Terra Captain. I think they can do a lot of damage.
Ceruledge would be very good as a Terra Captain. But there's not very good water types, so I don't think he has too much to worry about. He has one of the better water types out there right now.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what this team could do. I think Jokin here said a good example. Switch out Murkrow for a Glaceon and your team is actually on paper a little bit better, like stat wise or like coverage wise. It makes it a little bit harder for them to prepare for. So that might be something you could look at down the line, but other than that, I really like this team. I'm excited to see how this team will work. And since we don't actually know how this person is going to play, it's even more exciting.
I think that's something that works in his favor, though. We mentioned earlier when we were talking about this ahead of time, this team looks very simple. Like, not in a bad way. This looks like a very consistent team that week to week you know what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah. And then still have a problem trying to set up for. Because regen, baby!
Yeah.
Alright. So we're on to our last two. We put him as top 3. Our second place is our second place champion for season 6.
Our runner-up.
My rival. And when he told me what his Terra Captain was going to be, I I laughed in joy because a poison Hydreigon with levitate sounds terrifying.
Yeah,
Ugh.
definitely scary top 3. That is a very good Fairy Dragon Steel Core. I had looked at including Hydreigon and Enamorus in some of my own, so definitely a good core. And making it the Terra Captain, I think, was an excellent choice.
Yeah. Moltres did lose some. Like, it lost its defog, it lost... I don't think it has
Scorching
Misco.
Sands,
It lost Scorching Sands.
no Toxic.
Roost was nerfed, no Toxic. So this is going to be interesting at what they could possibly do with Moltres. The biggest thing about this team, there is no
hazard removal.
No hazard removal.
No defog because Moltres no longer has it.
Yeah. Hydreigon doesn't have defog. Hydreigon did pick up rocks this season, which is going to be very interested. Now,
I like some of the lower mons.
I do too. I think Tinkerton is a very sleeper mon.
Yes.
I believe
about Tauros.
Yeah, especially since we had someone who spammed screens every game right at the beginning. So Tauros, Raging Bull is going to be very interesting because no more gimmick.
We've seen a couple teams that already want to make use of screens, like with the Grimmsnarl, so it's already got a couple weeks. It should be pretty good.
Yeah, like this, I think a lot of people sleep on the new Tauros, and I'm excited to see that happen. Tinkerton is a good staple, like I'm gonna set up rocks and just be a nuisance mon, so I'm excited for that. I'm not the biggest fan of Cloudsire. Granted, like it's just a toxic stall mon.
It's a good answer to set up, which I think this team might have some issues with otherwise. So I think it fits pretty well. I like the Ursa Ring.
I do.
I 2 points. I think it was an excellent point pick at 2 points.
Yeah, and Evilite. I mean, even if you want to switch that to that you're a Terra Captain for Ghost type, it's just disgusting.
You can do Flame Orb for the guts. I think there's a couple good options. The only question mark here was the Appleton. I don't think you needed another dragon type, and I think there were other grass types I liked better at the 2-point tier, but it's not bad at any means.
Yeah, the grass typing isn't too bad, but I personally prefer Appleton. Leech Seed, just being a nuisance, that's all it's really good for.
All very bulky.
Yeah, I think at this, like Appleton's gonna do well if it ever comes though.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Moltres is unfortunate though.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say that's the other one that kind of made me scratch my head. I think the main reason he went for it is just because the team was pretty ground weak, and he's done a good job of addressing that with the Levitate and the 2 flying types. So I think that was the main reason the Moltres was grabbed.
So I'm curious because Moltres is one of my favorites. Flame Body is just defensive set.
About that Moltres from a couple seasons ago.
I love it. All right, on to our last one, which I can't really say anything. I didn't want to put myself here, but it's me, and I am rocking the Gen 7 with Hatterene and Graffiti. That's it.
Speaking of nightmares, looking at the core of this team looks terrifying. Having to deal with Heatran, Zapdos, Garchomp, Hatterene. Oh my god, that's going to be terrifying to plan for you. Terra Captain the Zapdos, which I think was a good call. I think you might switch it up some weeks. I could see Samurott or Serena going as Terra Captain, but Terra Ice Zapdos gives you a very good answer to anything that wants to come in and eat the Volt switches and helps give you a bit more coverage with the flying. It's nice, you're not stuck into Hurricane. So I can see that being very good. But the combination of the team, you only have 2 hazard setters, but those hazard setters are Heatran and Garchomp, and you still have rocks and spikes.
Oh, I have Hatterene.
You have Hatterene for the Magic Bounce. That's something I have in the Espeon too. That it's not usually something that jumps to people's mind, but the Magic Bounce does help. A couple of the other picks I like. I really like the Indeedee, and I really like the Grafai. And I kind of mentioned it to you again earlier when we were talking. This team looks like it performs very well into a lot of the other teams that have already been drafted. I like the Indeedee because it shuts down teams like mine that have priority heavy. I like the Grafai because that lets you get Prankster toxic for a lot of the teams. I think the only thing that might come to bite you is that Serena's your only hazard clear. That's really the only knock I can give against this team, but it fit too well not to take. It was rapid spin. It fits your fire, water, grass core. It's not awful for the price it was at. So I think it's just a really solid team overall.
Yeah, Serena was definitely uh like I picked up for the rapid spin. Yeah. And I don't know. It was also something like I think my between my options that I had, I wanted something I haven't used before. So majority of these mods I have not drafted before and used in competitive. So and my gimmick in this team was literally go ahead, hit me. Like go ahead, physically hit me.
God, you have to run protective pads against this team. You've got static on the Zapdos. You got flame body on the Heatran. You got rough skin on the Garchomp. It's
Oh,
it's
shell
gonna be a
armor on
nightmare.
Samurott. You can't
Especially for teams like mine that are so physically heavy. There's not much you can do with it without feeling like I'm gonna get something statused.
I purposely picked up NDD just because Makita picked up Scizor, and I was like, you know what, you're not allowed to click that button.
Even the Queenly Majesty on Serena stops the priority. So I think this team counters a lot of the teams that were drafted pretty well.
Weavile was my fuck it, let's go pick.
Ooh, I'm
What?
the biggest Weavile fan club member, so
Yeah.
I was excited when Weavile
Ah,
got picked.
but it got nerfed. But
It's
I
so
have
good. I'm telling you.
I have some
You'll be
hopes.
impressed.
I have some hopes. I have some stupid ideas with it. And plus, I think with the priority ice shard, it would be pretty good. As long as I'm not dumb and try to do it in a psychic terrain. But I think it being really fast is still going to be very good for me. And it's another pressure mon that I could use. Like if I really wanted to and like know that someone's just going to run protective pads, I could pressure stall them out pretty well on this team.
No, this team has so many different options on things it could run. You could pull off Trick Room with Hatterene. You can pull off Stall. You can outrun people with the Weavile and the Zapdos and the Garchomp, and you could do screens with that. There's so much this team could do. That's why when it came time to place it, I suggested we place it pretty high.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that because I had no idea what I was drafting. I just really wanted Heatran, Zapdos, and Garchomp. After that, I just made shit up. But yeah, I'm happy with how my team came out though. I'm really excited to play around. I don't think I'm going to be doing any switches just for the fact of like I think my Terra Captain's going to be really fun. You know, switching into Ice type and then like thinking like any ground users are going to be able to do anything. Then not a lot of them were picked up though. Not a lot of
I would
ground.
say that I would hope a couple weeks you're switching it up. If I could see weeks where Samurott or Serena could both shine, and even Weavile as a Terra captain. But I do agree that I think Zapdos will be your captain most of the time.
Yeah. But yeah, that is our season 7 team preview. People are allowed to still do trades, so
Things might change. before
Things
the
might
season
change.
Actually starts.
but we kind of wanted to just judge on people's drafting. You know, like
Initial
that.
reactions, yeah.
Yeah, that's always the fun part of like like something gets taken. Like, all right, what do I got to pick up now? What do I replace this with? And how the teams turn out. I think a lot of the teams turned out just fine.
Yeah.
This meta is very weird. With like there is like people aren't picking up water types, and people aren't like
Well, there's just not a lot of good ones.
yeah, and like steel type isn't a priority because there isn't that many of them, and flying type is absolutely not a priority because
Yeah,
a lot of them got nerfed to shit.
they fell off the face of the earth this gen, it feels like.
And we were really hoping that home was gonna save us, but they said nah, fam, no more toxic, no more scald.
So we moved on to the next thing. DLC.
DLC hope, baby. Give me back my scald, melodic, please. All right, everyone, thank you for watching, and stay tuned. I'm gonna try to record some of our draft leagues. I might do like a speed run of everyone's battles. I think that would be just pretty fun. All right, bye bye.